All right, we are here on day 3 of Gather Round. It is absolutely pumping in the footy festival in the background. As you can see, I'm joined by Mitch Keating. We are here to wrap up Port's massive Friday night win over the Dons last night. What did you make of it, Mitch?
Yeah, emphatic. It was such a strong performance, particularly through the middle for them. Backline held up really well, and then even without Charlie Dixon firing, their forward line was, had the upper hand for most of the night as well. Despite Ben Mackay's best efforts, and probably the only standout for the Bombers, who were quite disappointing, particularly in that midfield battle. They won the hit-outs, couldn't get close to the clearance count, particularly centre clearances as well. And that's really obviously where the game was won, with Connor Rozee and Jason Horne-Francis as the standouts. Quite interesting to hear that Brad Scott probably wasn't questioning the effort post-game, and more just losing some momentum when they were really trying to work their way back into it. So I think I'd probably suggest there was probably some questionable efforts from some players. But yeah, just a nightmare of a night, I think, especially for some of the travelling Bombers fans who've made their way to South Australia for Gather Round. But there's always next week for the Bombers to bounce back. They had some good form the week prior against the Saints, and hopefully they can recapture that on Friday night against the Western Bulldogs.
Yeah, pretty tough one for the Essendon fans that did travel over for that. But a segment that we're doing here as we're wrapping up each big game is the Macro Mike Game Changer. Now, Macro Mike is the best tasting plant-based protein on the market. You can catch that at macromike.com.au. So, the game changer for last night, I think it was a pretty easy one. It was Connor Rozee.
Yeah, absolutely. He had the three Brownlow votes wrapped up by half-time. 20 touches and 3 goals at the main break. And, at quarter time, it was a pretty level contest. And in that second term, he was, the difference maker, really. And, you can call him the game changer in any sense. Continued through the second half. It wasn't as big, but at that point, Port had a pretty comfy lead. Jason Horne-Francis fantastic over 4 quarters and really will rival him for best of field honours, but Connor Rozee just a step above. Ken Hinkley said he hadn't seen him play at that level, particularly in the first half in his career yet. So fantastic outing for the Port skipper. You add in Horne-Francis, Zach Butters, they get Ollie Wines back next week. Travis Boak played half a game. Willem Drew always flies under the radar. I think he had a game-high 17 contested possessions. So that midfield unit, as we know, is stacked. But that was probably the best performance we've seen from Port Adelaide's engine room for some time.
Would you put those three? So obviously the big talk last night was, you've got Jason Horne-Francis coming in to join Connor Rozee and
Zach Butters.
Butters, yeah. Are they the best sort of midfield trio going around at the moment? Obviously, statistically, they were better than Melbourne in the previous week. But what do you reckon?
Yeah, well, if they're not now, they will be soon.
Yeah.
I think it comes together like that only ever so often. But I think we'll be seeing a lot more given how young that core is. 22, 23. Horne-Francis is 20 years old. And they'll certainly be leading the way at Alberton for the next decade, which is quite scary to think. But you've got to think of midfield units. The Bulldogs on their day could be probably the best midfield pack in the competition if it all clicks, like it did for Port Adelaide on Friday night. You can also talk about, I guess, Melbourne. If they have Clary and Petrarca and Viney fit and firing, then that's going to be really hard to stop as well. So I think it certainly can be at this year for the Power to have the best midfield ensemble. But if they even get close to what they did last night again this season, then it'll be a pretty easy conversation, you'd think.
Yep, absolutely. So all upside for Port at the moment. So that will wrap it up for the Port versus Dons wrap up. Thanks, Mitch.
Thanks, Phoenix.
And it is kicking off still at Gather Round here. If you see us around, we'll be doing a lot of fan content. So if you want to jump in front of camera, have a chat, whatever you want to do, we'll do some live mailbag. And keep up to date on the socials and catch all the latest AFL news at zerohanger.com.